Sonic Adventure 2, the sequel to the first game I reviewed on this channel, the correctly maligned Sonic Adventure. Now, 5 years later, I think it's time I finally take a look at this nostalgically beloved game. Shall we live and learn? Hang on to the edge of tomorrow? Or will Sega ever find their way with an early 3D Sonic game? But for starters, let's look at the development and context around Sonic Adventure 2. Released June 19th, 2001 on Sonic's 10th anniversary, Sonic Adventure 2 is notable for being the last Sonic game for a Sega console. It was released almost 3 months after the Dreamcast had been discontinued. As such, Sonic Adventure 2 was developed in a much different series of circumstances than Sonic Adventure 1. Whereas Sonic Adventure had the hype of the Dreamcast's release to fuel its 2.5 million sales, Adventure 2 was made during the startling reality that the Dreamcast was failing. The team of 100 plus developers who had made the original Sonic Adventure would be downsized to a paltry 15 people for the sequel. Furthermore, development would be moved to the US with the creation of Sonic Team USA. This comparatively small team of developers were told to make the sequel of the best-selling Sonic game, but with a fraction of the staff in a foreign country. To quote then director and current Sonic lord Takeshi Iizuka, "I was really tasked with trying to make the impossible possible." But such limitations also tend to breed innovation. Sonic Team USA quickly learned to be as efficient as possible, changing the game's overall format into 2 team-based campaigns instead of the individual character campaigns of the first adventure. Gone as well were the overworlds in favor of levels to streamline the experience. Adventure 2 was also developed on the same engine as Adventure 1, but with improved texture quality and supposedly better collision detection. However, it will become very apparent that better does not necessarily mean good. Adventure 2 was designed to have a distinctly American feel due in part to where it was developed. Though the first level looking exactly like San Francisco is totally a coincidence, they swear. I think my favorite tidbit of knowledge is that while living in San Francisco, the developers were constantly getting parking tickets. So as a form of revenge, they put the tiny cars that the parking attendants drove into the game as a destructible object. Petty, but very funny. Sonic Adventure 2 was in development for about a year and a half. While it had been originally slated for release in February of 2001, it would be delayed to July, likely to take advantage of Sonic's 10th anniversary. The game would go on to sell around 500,000 copies on the Dreamcast, which honestly is impressive to me considering the console had been discontinued. Those already with a Dreamcast were likely the only ones able to play it. However, many of you probably never played this game on a Dreamcast. Most of you played the GameCube port, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, released in February 2002. This port itself is representative of a monumental shift in the gaming sphere. Effectively, Sega surrendered to Nintendo's dominance after over a decade of fierce competition. In doing so, Sega introduced Sonic the Hedgehog to a much wider audience who found him very appealing. So much so that Sonic Adventure 2 Battle sold 1.73 million units, making it the 14th best-selling GameCube game overall and the best-selling third-party game on that console. An unexpected boon for a company that nearly went under during this time period. Sonic Adventure 2 would later be further ported to PS3, Xbox 360, and Windows in 2012, which is the version I used to capture all of my footage. But it does have some problems. Here's another DopedBones PSA about fixing your games. Thankfully, there's nothing absolutely game-breaking and no program necessary to get the game running. Instead, make sure that you limit your frame rate to 60 FPS since the game speed is tied to the frame rate. Otherwise, your game will be running at the speed of sound. If you've watched this channel for a while, you'll know that I've used Sonic Adventure 2 as an example of this kind of jank when talking about other games. Now, there are 2 programs that may interest you as well. SA2 Input Controls adds a wider range of controller support while also improving analog sensitivity. I probably should have used this for my own playthrough, but I'll justify it by wanting to capture the true essence of what Sonic Team USA wanted us to feel in 2001. Definitely did not discover the program long after I recorded all my footage. SA2 Volume Controls adds adjustable volumes for music, sound effects, and voice while also fixing several audio bugs. Which is the perfect segue into the sound of Sonic Adventure 2. Visuals can wait, it's Jun Senoway's time to shine. Granted, he had help from Fumie Komatani, Tomoya Ohatani, and Kenichi Tokoe to create one of the greatest soundtracks in video games. Can you feel it? Moving through your mind? Ooh, you try to ignore it, but it'll worm your way into your head for the rest of the day. This soundtrack is a mixture of conflicting genres that somehow manage to be universally memorable tracks. Whether it's the whimsy of Escape from the City, the sultry beats of Pumpkin Hill, or the pure power of the Gun Mech boss theme, these songs demand that your brain replays them on loop. I am the Eggman, it's what I am. Even the menu themes are ridiculously good. Of course, this is all nostalgia based, but I do continue to listen to Adventure 2's soundtrack to this very day, occasionally using it in my videos, so take that as you will. As for the rest of the sound, well, it's not looking too good. The sound mixing is downright atrocious. Voices are too quiet, while music and sound effects are far too loud. I had to take my headphones off and turn down my volume at this system level to prevent further degradation of my hearing. The voice acting itself is in a league of its own once again. Everyone continues to talk in an oddly stilted manner that's campy at this point. Shadow especially. It makes him become the edgelord incarnate.
It all starts with this. A jewel containing the ultimate power.
That's the Chaos Emerald!
Tails is still voiced by a child, which in my book is commendable since the kid does an okay job for a child. Interestingly, while not the same kid as Sonic Adventure, he is that original voice actor's little brother. As far as visuals go, well, it's a 3D Sonic game made at the turn of the millennium, so it looks its age. That being said, I really do enjoy the character designs. Part of why Shadow the Hedgehog remains popular is because of his iconic design. He's got hover boots! I'm also sure Rouge the Bat activated some sort of degeneracy in the many young minds who were blasted by her visuals. I also appreciate how the various upgrades you can earn are reflected on the character's model in-game once again, even inside in-engine cutscenes. The wacky enemy designs are nothing to sniff at either. The fact that every government robot has the word gun written on it in capital letters is really funny to me as an American. These government bots look functionally competent when compared to the straight goofy shit Eggman cooks up on the daily. Ah yes, let's build a bomb-throwing robot that looks like a monkey and runs on the energy of the small creature inside. Pure genius. A fun little visual Easter egg you'll encounter is Big the Cat. He can be found somewhere in every single level of the game. It became a minigame for me to look around and find him. That being said, I still despise Big the Cat for making me play Sega Bass Pro Fishing in my Speedy Hedgehog game. How much? Almost as much as the camera in Sonic Adventure 2. This game's camera is one of the worst ever. It's a physical object of some kind, so it gets stuck on terrain and in the corners constantly. How am I supposed to move around at the speed of sound when I can't see where I'm going? It's a mess. You control the camera with the triggers on a controller, but as I said, it's unreliable as the camera collides with the environment constantly. The camera is the single greatest source of my frustrations with Sonic Adventure 2. I know this was still relatively early in the era of 3D in gaming, so we are still figuring some things out here, but why would you think this was shippable? People need to see in order to play the game! Collisions in general are still fairly busted too. I can confirm that they are somewhat better than the original Sonic Adventure, but again, better does not necessarily mean good. Sometimes you'll hit something wrong and bounce off, or you can walk too close to an edge and you'll suddenly find yourself falling to earth. Maybe you'll get stuck in a railing, or perhaps you'll find a weird spot in a garden where Knuckles can't help but vibrate. It's jank to the core. On the gameplay side of things, Sonic Adventure 2 has learned some lessons from its predecessor. Given the reduced team size and development time, Sonic Team USA had to pick what worked from the overly ambitious Sonic Adventure. Rolling at the speed of sound was obviously included, but we still had a third-person shooter, racing, stealth, treasure hunting, and Sega Bass Pro Fishing to choose from. The team made the correct decisions when it decided to keep third-person shooting and the hunt for the Master Emerald while ditching the other styles of gameplay. This decision resulted in the two campaigns being completely the same in terms of gameplay, but also allows for that gameplay to be somewhat refined and expanded upon when compared to what is essentially their prototypes in Sonic Adventure. The third-person shooting is the best example. In Sonic Adventure, this mode was a timed challenge where destroying enemies earned you more time on the clock. In Adventure 2, these levels are timed, but as a means to record your completion times rather than a limit on your play. Rings are also not much of a concern with the addition of a proper health bar. A far cry from having to continually collect or drop rings in the first game. Though, admittedly, I still do because rings will give you back a tiny portion of health. The treasure hunts themselves haven't been changed all that much. Explore the level and play hot or cold with a little UI element at the bottom of the screen. The levels are where the real differences lie. Levels are significantly larger, more open-ended, and typically have some sort of unique gimmick. There's the underwater mine with adjustable water levels, Eggman's complex pyramid base that requires wall maps to orient yourself, and the space level where you can travel between planetoids, to name a few. That last level can suck my nards, by the way. The gravity of the planetoids is finicky and inconsistent. Not to mention that the better collisions don't help anything either. And of course, there's the classic gotta go fast gameplay. The hedgehogs still feel barely controllable, but now you can grind rails and duck under objects. Honestly, there isn't a whole lot I can comment about with the maximum speed gameplay that I haven't covered in the past. You go fast and get to the end of the level, blowing up all the robots that stand in your way. I would argue that these sections are kind of the worst of the three gameplay modes of Sonic Adventure 2. Mostly because Sonic and Shadow are near impossible to control with precision at any speed, and this is a game that at times is expecting precision platforming. The final Sonic level made me angry beyond belief as I kept getting stuck on a rail loop halfway through. The reason was that I was holding forward on the analog stick when I should have just done nothing instead. Something that had never been communicated once in gameplay. I didn't even remember that crouching made you go faster until my friend reminded me during the battle section of this video. Ultimately, I wish they had refined this section of the gameplay even more. I think it really could have done it a service and it could have made it the best part of the gameplay. During the campaigns, your characters will find various upgrades, some vital for progression and others are more of a fun extra to find. For example, Sonic's light dash shoes are essential to his success, but I'm not sure that stupid little flute that activates the shrines is really worth the effort. All they seem to do is open a shortcut or two. I guess it matters more if you're trying to earn all the emblems, something that I won't be doing as I value what remains of my sanity. Boss battles round out the campaigns and they are very much hit or miss for me. I enjoy fighting these gunwalker things and the game's final boss. I hate trying to fight any of the other main characters, mostly because they are mirror matches against AI that are obnoxiously difficult. Like, yeah, it's kinda cool at first that Sonic and Shadow clash doing homing attacks, but eventually I would like to do some damage. Nor do I enjoy getting ass blasted by Tails or Eggman when fighting a duel. Knuckles vs. Rouge devolves into a battle over the high ground. I'm not even sure how they could have made these any better without differentiating the characters' movesets more, and they clearly did not have the time for that. On top of all of these other modes, there's also a dedicated racing section in both campaigns, specifically to either catch up with the Tornado or the Beast. It makes more sense in context as to why you are chasing the President of the United States. I hate these driving sections with a burning passion. In a jank-ass game that barely functions properly, somehow the kart racing mode is the least fun part of the entire experience. These karts suck to control. I find myself veering into walls left and right even if I brake or slow down. You can fall off levels in areas because for some reason the guardrail is missing in sections. I'd like to say this is abnormal, but it's more likely to become an optional feature of American roads these days. The levels themselves feel like an eternity when playing, even though they are only about 3 minutes long. I wish they had not included these, but I have no doubt it was a seed planted that eventually grew into the Sonic racing games. And those are surprisingly good. If that wasn't enough, you can even replay previous levels to earn more medallions, feel targeted nostalgia, or grind out chaos drives. If you manage to earn all 180 emblems, you'll unlock a Green Hill Zone for a maximum nostalgia dose to the veins. I won't be doing this because I value my sanity. But honestly, you can easily ignore most of the main game for the Chao Garden. I sometimes joke with a friend that Chao Garden Simulator 2 has this weird hedgehog game attached to it for some reason. The Chao Garden mechanics are so in-depth, there is a dedicated website called chaoisland.com with an insane amount of information about raising chows. I use them as a reference for most of this section. Not to mention that the game itself seems to be centered around the Chao Garden. While playing any regular level, you can find up to 3 Chao boxes. The first will give you a key, granting access to the garden upon level completion. The second will contain several animals, while the third will have a rare animal inside. These animals, along with chaos drives obtained from most enemies, can be given to chows to increase their stats, which include swim, fly, run, and power. A fifth stat, stamina, can only be increased by feeding a chow fruit, though it can be frustratingly difficult to get a chow to eat their fruit at times. I now understand what my parents went through when I was a child. Interestingly, the fruit will sometimes use the wrong textures, creating some strange looking orbs. The stats acquired affect a Chao's performance in the race and karate minigames. Increasing these stats significantly is going to require a lot of grinding for Chaos drives. I specifically use the Eggman and Tails levels on Prison Island as my preferred grinding spots. Another pro tip, once you've collected 10 drives or animals, your inventory will start to replace the oldest one. You're actually okay to just quit the level and re-enter the Chao Garden at this point. Saves a ton of time while grinding. In general, drives will only increase one attribute while animals affect several. This is counterbalanced by the fact that some animals take points away from attributes. Not to mention that Chaos will also take on the characteristics of the animals they, consume, which can lead to some real freaks like my boy Rocky here. The characters used to interact with Chaos affects their alignment, turning them good or evil. A status that is cemented once a Chao evolves, about 3 hours of Chao Garden time after hatching. Note, Chao Garden time means time spent inside the Chao Garden. Any time spent in the rest of the game doesn't count toward a Chao's lifespan, which, sadly, will come to an end at some point. Although this can be averted through reincarnation if your Chao enjoyed its life. That is, if you manage to avoid the temptation of flinging these guys around like little sacks of potatoes. On reincarnating, their stats will be reduced, but they've got another go at life to become the strongest karate master. Back to evolutions, when a Chao evolves into a good or evil Chao, it will unlock the respective garden. These are additional areas that can be accessed by taking the new stairs in the main Chao lobby. I don't think these places serve much of a purpose other than being places to segregate your Chaos. Although you can use Knuckles or Rouge to do some digging to find some Chao accessories. The Chao minigames are where the real meat of the mode lies. Yeah, there's the kindergarten, but to be honest, the only things I interact with here are the fortune teller, black market, and the doctor. Fortune teller for names, doctor for medical charts, and the market for items. I don't need my boy learning how to dance. His friends can in fact leave him behind. Cause if he don't dance, and if he won't dance, then he's no friend of theirs. Anyway, the races are the most straightforward minigame. The stats are direct analogies for how a Chao will perform in any particular part of the race. Bigger number equal better performance. Eventually your Chao will doggy paddle instead of panicking upon entering water. While running the course, you can encourage your Chao, giving them a speed boost. The amount of times you can do so is determined by the stamina bar. I also think simply running slightly drains stamina as well, but don't quote me on that. It's important to remember to feed your Chao lots of fruit because that last burst of speed can sometimes mean all the difference in a race. Occasionally in a race, your Chao will trip. Sometimes at the most inopportune moment, creating genuine heartbreak. I'm not sure what increases or decreases the likelihood of this happening. According to my more knowledgeable friend, a lack of legs will cause you to trip more, but that's the extent to which I've poked his brain on the subject. Different tracks provide different challenges with walls to climb, heights to leap off, rivers to swim, and paths to race down. The lengths and complexity of these races vary along with those that race in them. Be warned that anything outside the beginner's races is for real. Make sure your Chao is well trained before even thinking of attempting them. Chao Karate is a touch more in-depth comparatively. This is an auto-battler fighting game where your Chao will face off against a series of increasingly difficult opponents. The game uses Virtual Fighter rules, so either knock your opponent out of the ring, beat them senseless, or lame it out and be healthier at the end of 90 seconds. There's also a bar at the bottom displaying a Chao's Zeal. It's basically a stamina bar that will decrease over the course of the match. Landing a hit on a foe will slightly increase it, but getting hit or missing a punch will cause it to drop. If it runs out, the Chao will have a seat to catch their breath before fighting on. The stats for your Chao will play a vital role in their performance just like in the races. However, unlike the races, the stats have wildly different applications. Swim is the defense stat, fly is evasion, run is speed, power is power, and stamina is your Chao's overall health. Hence, why it's important to keep boosting your Chao's stamina every time you enter the garden. As I've already said, this mode is insanely in-depth. I've spent over 1,000 words detailing the general mechanics, and I haven't even gotten to the granular stuff like Chao colors, personalities, breeding, or the mighty Chaos Chao. A Chao so special, it is now immortal. My point here is that there is so much more to this little racing simulator than one would have ever reasonably assumed. It is honestly one of the greatest parts of this game, and probably the part that gives it the most replayability. If all that wasn't enough, there's also the multiplayer component added in the GameCube port. Battle mode, as I refer to it, is a two-player split-screen competitive mode where you face off against a friend in races or battles using various characters from the Sonic cinematic universe. The extra characters are all by default worse than the main stars, so my buddy and I didn't really play them in this footage. These modes generally mirror the actual gameplay of the main game. Action races are just Sonic or Shadow stages with a split screen component. Well, I say that, but the escape from the city level didn't include the truck chase scene, so the levels have been edited slightly to accommodate for multiplayer. The gameplay is slightly different as well, with powers that can be activated every 20 rings to try and slow down your opponent. Or in the case of Sonic the Hedgehog, freeze your opponent in place while you ruin his dreams of potential victory. The treasure hunt races are the usual Knuckles or Rouge level where you need to find the majority of 3 emerald pieces to win. That is, except for the Planet Quest level. This is a tiny level on a small planet where you have to find a single emerald shard. Due to the small size, my friend and I ended up coming into contact and fought each other. That is when we discovered that upon death, your character is given the tier 1 power that damages your opponent, on a planet with no rings to collect. This quickly became a never-ending cycle of death and rebirth, one that the game itself had to cut short because we generally stopped looking for the emerald piece to stop each other from looking for the emerald piece. The shooting battles are probably the most changed from the base game, in that they are just duels between each other in arenas modeled after the Eggman and Tails levels. Although there's also 2 obstacle course races in this mode that are really fun. Like, I kinda wish there were more of these than the fighting arenas, even if that space arena is pretty cool with the low gravity combat. Chao races and Chao Karate are also included in the battle mode. They use your actual Chao, which is a bit awkward for me. I funneled pretty much all my drives into Rocky, leaving Rusty to enjoy a life of leisure. The one race we did wasn't even close. My bad. Last and least of all is the kart racing mode. There's more work here than I expected. Characters have unique cars with stats, albeit there are really only 3 different stat distributions between 6 characters. Plus, it's still the kart racing mode I described earlier. Adding a friend while losing half my screen did not make it any more entertaining. Weirdly enough, battle mode does not play certain sound effects. Things like picking up rings, hitting bounce springs, and checkpoints would not make any noise. Part of me thinks it might have just been some weird bug we encountered, but another part of me wonders if it was not some weird technical limitation of the time. I mean, you've watched enough of this game by now. You can see that this thing is being held together with duct tape, glue, and hope. If it wasn't for deep-set nostalgia, I'm not sure there would be a reason for me to replay Sonic Adventure 2. Well, besides the absolutely bonkers story, I'm just gonna throw up a spoiler warning now because I gotta talk about what the hell is going on here and I cannot beat around the bush. All you need to know is I unequivocally love this stupid ass story. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but being bizarre lends it a certain earnestness that is ultimately charming. You'll need to skip to the time on screen to avoid spoilers for a 24-year-old game. Christ, I feel ancient saying that out loud. So, the story of Sonic Adventure 2 is, as previously stated, completely bonkers. It's split between 3 campaigns: good, evil, and the true ending. The good campaign begins with the persecution of Sonic the Hedgehog for crimes he did not commit. He was eating chili dogs in Station Square at the time. But the Department of Homeland Security doesn't care and puts him on a helicopter to the nearest island prison, only for him to break out of custody, using part of the helicopter to begin snowboarding down the hills of not San Francisco. This level holds a special place in many people's hearts. It is often quoted as one of the best opening levels in a video game. They are, of course, correct. The boarding, the organic introduction of grinding, and the running at the camera chase scene are all perfectly executed. No notes whatsoever. After dealing with a gun mech, Sonic comes face to face with his supposed doppelganger, Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow shows off the true power of the emeralds to escape the fuzz, leaving Sonic to rot in a prison cell. Meanwhile, Rouge the Bat and Knuckles the Echidna are having an argument over the Master Emerald, only for Dr. Eggman to snatch the emerald when they aren't paying attention. Knuckles then smashes the emerald so that no one can have it, having secretly wished for the thrill of the treasure hunt once more. This sets both him and Rouge on a quest to find the missing pieces for the rest of the game. Elsewhere, Tails is flying over the skies near Prison Island, the secret military base outside of town he heard about on satellite TV. He spots Eggman harassing Amy and White Knights his way into a fight. After beating some eggs, the two split up with Tails causing a ruckus while Amy sneaks over to Sonic's cell. They briefly flirt and chat about that black hedgehog while Amy unlocks the cell. Which, once unlocked, Sonic predictably leaves Amy in the dust, speeding through the harbor to catch a ride on an ICBM? What the hell kind of reality is this where they're firing a ballistic missile? Is there some kind of conflict going on in the background of the anthropomorphic animal shenanigans? Or is the military using an ICBM as a means to get rid of this hedgehog? I already saw them bomb what appeared to be a poor rendering of an aircraft carrier earlier. It wouldn't surprise me if Gunn decided to use any means necessary to eliminate the Blue Menace. Speaking of, in the forests of Prison Island, Sonic encounters Shadow again. Calling each other fakes, they duel to prove who is the superior life form. A duel that is frustratingly long, yet cut short by an announcement from Dr. Eggman. The island is going to blow up in 8 minutes. I love the reactions to this news. Sonic predictably exclaims in surprise, while Shadow is just stunned for a moment. Like mouth open, looking around, can't believe what he just heard. The ultimate life form, when told the land under him is about to explode, goes, "Guh," before realizing, oh fuck, I gotta get out of here, and just dipping. Sonic follows his example. Escaping the forest, Sonic manages to fly away with his friends as the island explodes behind him. While all this is happening, Knuckles is Jay chilling in Pumpkin Hill looking for Master Emerald shards while listening to the fantastic music and absorbing the vibes. This level unequivocally rules. Hands down, my favorite in the entire game, which is then followed by one of the most insane cutscenes in all of video games. Eggman broadcasts to the world that he has taken control of the Ark space colony, turning it into a weapon of mass destruction. In his image, of course. He demonstrates its power to the people of Earth by blowing up the moon. This is James Bond villain behavior in a game made for children. I love it. Eggman gives the world a day to surrender to him before he starts glassing sections of the planet. The heroic trio puts together the reason Eggman wanted the emeralds this time around was the power of the Super Space Death Laser. Only they don't have them all, as Tails still has one emerald, which he can use to track down Eggman since the emeralds apparently attract. However, the 5-0 have other plans for our crew who must now split up to escape the cops. While all that is happening, Knuckles is in a watery mine listening to some mellow beats while dodging ghosts and nabbing shards. He ends up coming out of the sewers right under Tails and Amy. Tails has no time for Knuckles' tomfoolery. By hacking the government computer, Tails has learned that the Eggman and the President are communicating. By accessing the terminal in the President's limo, they'll be able to pinpoint Eggman's location. So, Tails begins chasing the President of the United States. I said it would make more sense in context, not that it would make sense. Cut to the limo, where the President is contemplating Eggman's demands for the Earth's complete surrender. And then, well, I'll just let the cutscene play out.
You have 24 hours to give me your answer.
No way!
What the? Sonic,
Eggman Empire. Yeah, right.
what the heck's going on here?
Don't worry,
no.
Mr. President.
What did you
Everything's
do?
under control. Just leave it to us. Got it, Tails?
I got it! He's transmitting from the space colony Ark!
Okay, let's move it!
Wait up, Sonic!
Hey, you, wait!
Mr. President, we're receiving an incoming signal from our agent.
So yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog just hijacked the President of the United States and then just dips after finding out Eggman's location. Pure insanity. Leading our heroes to Egypt? We get a series of levels where our heroes fight through Eggman's bots and schemes. I do love how Eggman's robots in particular drop animals like they did in previous games. These levels end in 2 boss fights, one against the giant pharaoh bot and the other against this bastard of a ghost. King Boom Boo isn't a complicated fight, but it is certainly annoying as hell. To beat him, you have to hit this hourglass held by King Boo's crony hidden behind him, unlocking the power of the sun and making King Boo vulnerable to attack. Only this dick will constantly change directions, drawing out the fight for no other reason than to insult my sanity. Sonic then dashes onto the space shuttle hidden inside the Great Pyramid of Giza as the team travels to the space colony. Though seeing as they're merely anthropomorphic animals and not astronauts, they're lucky the only accident that happened was releasing the Master Emerald shards. Once aboard, Knuckles dips to find those shards while Tails plot dumps about the Ark. Apparently it was a research station abandoned over 50 years ago due to a big accident. Anyway, Tails made a fake Chaos Emerald that should cause all the other ones to go out of whack if it's put in the orbital cannon. Sonic's job is to find the control room while Tails seeks and destroys the place's power supply. Amy is left behind because she is destined to be captured by Eggman again, causing Sonic and Tails to divert from their plan to save her. Meanwhile, Knuckles is outside listening to some smooth space jams while searching for emerald shards. I aspire to be like Knuckles. unbothered by the problems of others, only focused on a single task: the world be damned. It culminates in a battle with Rouge to determine the Treasure Hunter Supreme, which is of course Knuckles because we're playing the hero campaign. But the Absolute King doesn't let his opponent fall into what appears to be space lava, instead risking his life to save her. Although it could be interpreted that he was way more interested in saving those emerald shards Rouge gives him in return for saving her life. Thus, the Mastered Emerald is complete and Knuckles can move on to his next obsession. Elsewhere, Sonic and Tails confront Eggman, who just so happens to be holding Amy at gunpoint. Sheer insanity, but I'm not surprised that Eggman is packing. He might have given Shadow his first gun. In attempting to comply with Eggman's demands, Sonic falls for his trap, which puts him into a capsule and shoots him out into space where he explodes! Holy shit, they killed Sonic the Hedgehog. Series over. Not quite, as Sonic figured out how to teleport back into the Ark with the fake Chaos Emerald. Tails duels Eggman to perceivably avenge his friend. This time, Eggboy has a whole host of new abilities and is fairly annoying to fight. But not as annoying as the last Sonic level. This level is the worst. A single wrong step or button press will send you careening down to Earth. And there's tons of rails that you have to constantly jump on and between, further increasing the likelihood that you will lose a life. Not to mention the annoyingly finicky vertical rails. I hate it, and it was a barrier to me beating the game for so many years. Upon beating it, Shadow appears to praise Sonic for surviving and never ceasing to amaze him. The two begin a speed duel in the underbelly of the Ark. Another battle that isn't difficult, but tedious and annoying. Shadow loses all the same while a despondent Tails observes his failure to stop the Ark from firing, only to be delighted when it backfires as Sonic puts the fake emerald in place, ending the game on our triumphant Hedgehog. But that's not the only campaign, something that is reinforced by the trailer at the end of the credits. Like, no joke, an actual trailer telling you to play the second campaign for the full story. Something that wasn't even novel at the time, but was probably needed because most everyone who was playing the game was a dumb kid. Leading us to the events of the Dark campaign. Can't say evil, I guess. A lot of the events play out the same, but from the villain's perspective, so I'll try to be brief. The Eggman breaks into a government facility in search of a secret weapon his grandfather had been working on. Finding Shadow in deep freeze, he remembers his grandfather's Yahoo password to unleash the ultimate edgelord upon the world. After fighting a mech, Shadow tells Eggman to meet him on the space colony Ark before robbing a bank's Chaos Emerald. The police sirens activate Shadow's PTSD, and we see snippets of some event in the past, including a girl named Maria. While Shadow is ditching the cops, Rouge is up to spy games as it appears she has been set by the government to spy on Eggman, giving her character some depth that was non-existent in the Hero playthrough. Too bad the Eggman is already on the Ark, powering it up for the first time in over 50 years. In the control room, Shadow explains how the Ark is the creation of the great Gerald Robotnik and a secret military weapons facility. The Eclipse cannon used to blow up the moon is only one such weapon aboard. It requires Chaos Emeralds to charge, so our villains head to Prison Island to acquire more from the government. The events of Prison Island pretty much play out the same. Back on the Ark, Shadow reminisces about a memory with Maria where they gaze to the Earth as Shadow questions his existence. He shares a touching moment with Rouge before they blast the moon. Eggman is unhappy his moon explosion is being downplayed and his threats generally ignored. If only he had all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Deus Ex Rouge shows him a newspaper article detailing how Tails was given a Chaos Emerald for saving Station Square back when Eggman tried to blow it up with a missile back in Sonic Adventure 1. I like how this ties the story back to the events of Adventure, but boy does it feel kinda forced here. Anyway, now it's Rouge's time to kart race, this time after Tails and his Emerald. A chase that kinda ends up going nowhere, honestly, as the story skips to the heroes taking the space shuttle to Ark. Rouge does some spy stuff that gets discovered by Shadow while the Eggman fights Tails. In her sleuthing, Rouge found the project notes about the ultimate lifeform named Shadow. However, the creature depicted is very different from the Shadow we know, especially given the description on the paper says that Shadow is 2.7 meters long and weighs 350 kilograms. That's 8 feet 10 inches and 772 pounds if you're a cheeseburger fiend. Shadow isn't impressed by the discovery. At the end of the day, his memories may be false, but he is still himself, Shadow the Hedgehog. And the only thing that matters to Shadow is fulfilling his promise to Marina for revenge against the world. The Dark campaign culminates in a duel against Sonic where Shadow ultimately emerges victorious after an excessive amount of time. Eggman then celebrates his imminent conquest of the world while a warning siren goes off. Which is your clue, besides another trailer at the end of the Dark campaign, that there is even more game to be played. Leading us to the last campaign, or true ending as a normal person would say. As Eggman tries to fire the Eclipse cannon once more, the entire system locks up. After the military's betrayal, Gerald Robotnik had programmed a failsafe in the Ark if the Eclipse cannon was ever fully charged, causing the station to plummet to Earth and shattering the planet with the obscene amount of energy stored in emeralds, granting Gerald revenge against a world that took away his granddaughter, Maria. Eggman almost has admiration in his tone when he calls his grandfather a mad scientist. All of the characters then run one last gauntlet through the Ark to reach its core. Shadow, meanwhile, avoids helping until he gets a talk from Amy, reminding Shadow about how Maria cared deeply for the Earth and wanted him to protect it, not seek revenge on it. Shadow resolves to keep his real promise to Maria. In the core, a Master Emerald Shrine holding all the emeralds is protected by the real Ultimate Life Form, a giant lizard with a bunch of mechanical bits attached. Shadow is deeply insulted by the creature's existence and duels with the Bio Lizard for the title of Ultimate Life Form. After battling the beast, Knuckles plugs the Master Emerald into the shrine to halt the Chaos Emeralds. This works, but the Ark is still falling. The Bio Lizard Chaos controls outside, merging with the colony to continue the rapid descent. To stop this creature once and for all, Sonic and Shadow charge up using the power of the JO crystals to become Super Sonic and Super Shadow. The final battle hits all the correct beats, down to using the main theme as the music. A+ tier boss fight that is really just a victory lap, albeit very satisfying to play. Our Super Hedgehogs then use the power of Chaos Control to teleport the Ark back into orbit. Shadow is rather unlucky and crashes to Earth by himself, thinking of Maria as he goes. Which is where the character was supposed to end, burnt up in re-entry. There's a scene where Sonic gives Rouge Shadow's ring, confirming his death. The credits play as our characters reminisce about the past, thinking about those we have lost and moving into the future, ending with an image of Shadow superimposed over the Earth. That's how dead he was supposed to be. However, Shadow the Edgelord was way too popular for Sega to let him stay dead. I would know. I own Shadow the Hedgehog on PS2 in all its edgy glory. I imagine that'll be a candidate for a 10th anniversary video. In conclusion, Sonic Adventure 2 is an improvement over the original, but boy does it still have its own problems. Granted, I can forgive most of these as my nostalgia for the game is coded into my DNA at this point. I think those that have never experienced the game will find it to be an interesting time capsule of its era. Those who have played it are undoubtedly as nostalgic as me and can forgive some of the game's flaws, because we are all just living, learning, and trying to hang on to tomorrow. And I'm not sure there's a better message to take from something as bizarre and jank as Sonic Adventure 2. In case you somehow watched this entire video and didn't already own the game, you can find it on Steam for $10, but it often goes on sale for $5. I'd personally wait for that sale given the actual quality of the game itself, but the unforgettable experience is definitely worth the price of entry. Not to mention the hours of your life that can be lost to the Chao Garden. Thanks for watching. More garbage to come. If you've made it this far, sorry for the time between videos. Kept you waiting, huh? The BioShock 2 review was about 2/3 of the way completed when I trashed it. I wasn't happy with the video. Long story short, I replayed BioShock Infinite during its production and it changed how I view BioShock 2, to the point that I'm rewriting the entire script to reflect that. It'll be a while before that review finally comes out, but I've got a game or two that have been waiting in the wings. So thank you again for watching. This channel somehow passed 1,000 subscribers while I've been slacking for the last 6 months. I'll never stop being amazed by and appreciative of the people who bother to watch the crap I make. Thank you one last time, and I hope you have a good one.
Farewell, Sonic. Forever.